Hello everybody and welcome to Forever Rugby on Forever Sports. Sharks 45, Bulls 12. An absolute demolition by the Durban side against the reigning Currie Cup and Super Rugby Unlocked champions in what was quite a scrappy, messy game in horrendous conditions. I mean, it really was really bad conditions. It was very wet. The ground was breaking up underfoot. There were puddles everywhere. I mean, Snedden Humber scored a try right at the end, and he slid, and some say he's still sliding. It was that wet. So in a swimming affair, it was the Sharks who took to the water I wouldn't say like a duck to water, I suppose, to a shark-like water, and completely mauled the Bulls, who looked about as out of place as a cow would look in an ocean. But before we look down at the game itself, please do smash a like on the video. Do subscribe to the channel if you are new. Right, so first half, and the Sharks were off to a fantastic start. They scored a try in literally the first few minutes. And they just didn't stop, really. It almost looked like they were playing in a completely different stadium with completely different conditions. Because their handling was fantastic from the get-go. You know, they had an early scrum, which the Sharks completely dominated. And that was a bit of a marker. That was a bit of a warning to the Bulls saying, listen, we're here to play. And they wanted a penalty. They got into the Bulls' half. They then had a maul, and they went straight over, and Pheasant said, thank you very much, dotted down, cool. A few minutes later, and that was about the 5th minute, I think it was. 4th minute, they scored the first try. Literally 4 minutes later, back in the same situation, another collapse maul, TMO, yellow card, penalty try, 14-0 within 10 minutes. The Bulls did hit back, however, through a very, very nice try. Some nice handling, some nice sort of round-the-back passes, and it was so suddenly we were thinking, well, here we go. It's just going to be a high-scoring affair. But after that, it was one-way traffic, and the Sharks just piled on the pressure until they scored. I mean, a fantastic try. Sia Khaleesi on debut scored, and it was all done by Spoon Corsi. Brilliant. Coming down the right wing, so Butch Chamberlain, who was pretty solid actually today. I thought he had quite a nice game. Down the sort of the blind side, him and Spoon Corsi delayed the pass out to Spoon Corsi. Spoon Corsi saw that there was nothing on in front of him, stepped inside, was very, very vocal, said, stay outside, stay outside, stay outside. 1 pass, 2 pass, 3 pass. And Anthony following pass in the turn to Spoon Corsi, who had been overlapping. He ran out. He literally held the ball on just right. Still got 4 defenders. Popped the ball out to Sia Khaleesi. It was Morne Steyn and Madosh Tambwe up against Springbok captain. They came out second best, 19-5 in the 17th minute. And they just didn't stop, really. Another try by Pheasant Maurice Lowe scored a try, and Maurice Lowe's try, I suppose, kind of sort of summed up the Bulls' thing, where they were just poor. It was just really, really poor. The tackling, I mean, from the scrum, Pheasant jumped up there one time, and Maurice Lowe literally just ran inside and beat 3 defenders. Morne Steyn bounced off him. Madosh Tambwe couldn't get to him. I think it was Porkita as well. Or Kellerman who couldn't tackle him. It was just poor defending, and that kind of sort of summed it up. It wasn't. The Sharks played very, very well. I'm not going to take anything away from the Sharks. They were superb tonight. I was very, very impressed. The best game I've seen them play all season. But the Bulls were also very uncharacteristically poor. And it was very much an A team versus a B team. We do need to keep that in mind, and that's what Jake White was saying. He was trying to defend it. Is that you look here at the Sharks and they've got space for maybe 2-3 players and it's their first team. Whereas the Bulls probably had about 2 or 3 players who would be in their first team. I think if you look at that Bulls lineup, Morne Steyn, Lizo Gqoboka, that's pretty much it, to be honest. I think those are the only 2 players who started in the Currie Cup final, if I'm not mistaken. So it really was a B team for the Bulls. And definitely not an opportunity, it was an opportunity that was taken by the youngsters to try and put their hand up and to say they were good enough. Because by the time it got to half-time, they were 31 points, 5 down. Oxenchair scoring a very nice try, some very nice handling from the forwards. But the Sharks just won every collision. They were the better out at the breakdown. Their line-out functioned. The Bulls' line-out didn't function. Scrum time, the Sharks were all over the Bulls. Oxenchair was having a field day up against Marcel van der Merwe. Which, interestingly, when those 2 went off, suddenly Lizo Gqoboka was having a bit of a better time against Thomas du Toit. But every time the Bulls had an opportunity to have a line-out in a decent position to try and get themselves on the front foot, there'd be an overthrow, there'd be a knock-on. It was just poor, to be honest. The kicking game wasn't particularly good. It was particularly good by Jaden Hendrickson. I thought he was my man of the match. He was absolutely everywhere. He was marshalling his troops, telling everybody where to go, what to do. He was taking quick taps. He was really taking the game to the Bulls. He was kicking in behind. He used the conditions very well. Because it was so wet underfoot, they were literally puddles. They could understand that if they've got the pace, they kick behind, they know the ball's going to stop up and it's just going to, literally just not even bounce, just pretty much sit. And they used that very effectively, where they just kicked to the head a couple of times and said, right, we're going to get there first. We're going to outrun you. You've got to turn. We don't have to turn. And they did that very well. There was a glimmer of hope when the Bulls scored first in the second half to make it 31 points to 12 and had another opportunity to score, and then they just kept butchering it. It was a lot of throws over the top. Again, the scrum didn't really function. There was a yellow card in the first half, and then 2 yellow cards towards the end of the second half, and that was really it. 17th minute, yellow card, and then just after that, I think it was Jan Ace was sent off, and then Nizam Kar, like a minute later, down to 13 men. They conceded another try, and then literally just when they thought it couldn't get any worse, Clinton Swart throws a 50-50 pass. Tanene Nahamba latches onto it, and he runs off for an intercept try, and 45 points to 12. There really isn't much more to say, is there? Unfortunately, we can't go look at stats and see tackle success rate. I can tell you right now, the Bulls missed too many tackles. They conceded too many penalties. They lost too many lineouts, and their scrum wasn't good. It was very much an A team versus B team type performance. It was exactly what we saw. You could see that Bulls side just could not begin to compete with that Shark side. Siya Kolisi, the person people want to know about, I thought was pretty solid. He scored a nice try. It was mostly spoon coursey, but still had to be finished. It was a very messy game, though, so it was difficult to find sort of standouts in the forwards because they didn't have that many tackles to make. They didn't have that many opportunities to really run. But I thought he was fairly solid. He made his tackles, missed one big tackle in along the try and go for the intercept. Probably got caught out of position. Bulls did go on to score, but he did score. It was a solid outing for the Springbok captain. I mean, it wasn't anything flashy. Didn't have too much to do, but it was solid. Apart from that, I thought Jaden Henderson was good. I thought Butcher Chamberlain was quite good. Anthony Fulmer looked all right at fullback. Yeah, it was just a really good performance from the Sharks. They just completely outplayed the Bulls. I don't think the Bulls will worry too much. They will know that was very much a second-string side, and that's going to be the main thing, and they'll keep reinforcing that. And Jake White, I'm sure, will be very vocal about the fact that this was a game for players to take an opportunity and put their hand up, and a lot of players just didn't. So there'll be so many more players who will have to come in, but there are a lot of injuries in that Bulls camp. Albert Lowe, Marcel Kutsia, Dwayne Vermeulen, Arno Buerta, I think it's Ruan Nokia, Zintu Manjezi, Stefan Khan, Stravino Jacobs. These are all players who are injured. So an injury crisis in the Bulls, and unfortunately, from the looks of it, a lot of these players maybe might be able to cope if they've got better players around them. But on their own today, there were a lot of inexperienced players who just couldn't come together and do the job. Let me know what you thought of the game down in the comments below. Do smash a like on the video. Do subscribe if you are new. My name is Steven, and I'll chat to you soon.